Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Remarkable Rare, Living with Shprintzen-Goldberg Syndrome. I'm Kayla.
And I'm Zohan.
And if you're new here, we're students from the University of Notre Dame who are rare disease advocates interested in Shprintzen-Goldberg and ultra-rare SGS, also known as SGS and an ultra-rare disorder. So to get started, joining us today is Hannah. She's the older sister of Hope, and we'll be learning about her perspective as a sibling and also stepping up as a caregiver at some points. And so, with highlighting this perspective, we just wanted to talk about how it's often that the patient receives most of the spotlight due to the intensive care necessary, but a lot of the times there is it a team effort, and a lot of siblings are required to be involved in just the process, and they also experience the unique perspective during this time that requires the balancing between their own needs and the needs of the patient. So to start off, Hannah, we just wanted to hear what your perspective is in being an older sibling and also caregiver of SGS.
Really, with having Hope as my sister, it's been such a joy in my life. I was 9 when she was born, and it was a adjustment, obviously, for our whole family. I really, right from day one, really got attached to Hope and really loved helping out my mom in any way, and just kind of always wanted to be around her. She became a very special person to me, and I really I don't know, as she's grown up, it's been so cool to see all the milestones she's gotten to, because I remember in the beginning it was a lot when the doctors were saying oh, she won't be able to do this, she won't be able to do that. And so kind of as her older sister, I was always trying to help her get to those milestones, I guess, in any way, help her experience the fun parts of life, not just medical. It was a lot. I feel like I grew up pretty fast. The medical world, it just kind of, it's a lot. And our family, and myself included, learned a lot more than I would ever know about medical stuff. Helping out in any way I could became a big priority for me. So I just kind of was stepping up and helping where I could, because my other siblings were still pretty little at the time, so they were just kind of along for the ride. And as they've gotten older, they've totally helped out as much as I have. The biggest things that I've learned through it all is patience and compassion, because you when stuff happens in life, just having the patience for it, and then the compassion, and not being just in your own world, being aware of what's going on around you. With being her sisters, you just have to have patience and have to be kind of okay with where things are and not wish them to be something else.
Thanks for sharing your story with us, Hannah. Growing up pretty fast and at 9 years old is in such an incredible journey, and just to hear about how you being the older sibling and your siblings were too young to help out with the process, it just goes to show how much you're able to learn and jumping in and stepping in the caregiver perspective at some points.
Yeah, for sure. I really thought it was important that you noted you grew in compassion and just understanding the medical needs of others. So I think often when we look at rare disease, we just consider, your the impact on you being you miss out on schoolwork, or you learn medical procedures and stuff like that. But I think it's important to note that by caring for a rare disease patient, on top of learning the medical stuff, you also learn to understand that everyone's going through something. And like Melissa said many episodes back, that this compassion is really important for understanding people and also to treat them better.
Yeah. I completely agree, and the patience aspect is just so important. As you mentioned, there's points where you understand what's going on and you don't understand what's going on, and so being able to really ride along with the journey and go with the ebb and flow of things, so important. Being able to adapt and be patient, and then you mentioned just being okay with how things as they are and not wishing that they were different. It's such a powerful statement because sometimes when we're in the thick of it, we can question why things like why am I the older sibling that has to take on the extra burden that my other siblings don't, and just being able to celebrate that process and celebrate the lessons that you learn is just so important. So thanks again for sharing that part. And just to continue on with just how you're able to balance your own needs. How do you address your own needs and balance the needs of Hopes as being a sibling and being a caregiver?
Yeah. Let me try to think. I think sometimes, like, especially with big medical things, like maybe in surgery seasons or recovery seasons when our whole house is like pitching in to take care of her, I think sometimes it's been hard for all of us to like pause and be like, okay, uh, what do I need to do? For me, like sometimes I just go to a coffee shop and I'll go and journal or just do something to like I don't know, get my mind out of like maybe the situation and just have some downtime and quiet. So like going to coffee shops for me, and having a little bit of downtime is like a way I can just kind of relax and get my mind off of maybe more difficult situations. Just I don't know, in different seasons it's looked different about like what it looks like to take care of myself. But I think as a caregiver, um, right now I'm a little bit in a different season than I used to be. But it would sometimes be hard to remind myself, okay, I need to go do my schoolwork, or I need to go work. I need to break away. I know she's gone through some different seasons of really being upset at me when I leave. Um, and that's hard as a sibling, especially when you're like a caregiver sibling, because like for me, like I'm her fun, bubbly, um, like I help her do fun things. So like when she's having a hard time and I have to go to work or when I was in school would have to go to school. Now that she's getting older, she's doing so much better. But like it is this little bit of an internal struggle. Like I have to take care of myself and do the list of things that I have on my to-do list. Um, but also being there for her.
Well, thank you, Hannah. One thing I thought that you said that was really like inspirational, but also important was that at the beginning, you sacrificed most of your own needs for Hope. So, like what you said, you didn't really do much of your schoolwork, and even being homeschooled, like you needed time to eventually catch up on that schoolwork. So, like, I thought that was really inspiring, like sacrificing your own needs there for Hope. But I thought the continuation of that was also very important because, as you said, like early on, it took most of your time, but as Hope grew, it became better, and over time, you were able to like focus more on your own needs and also still help Hope. But she was able to like go to appointments and do more stuff on her own, and I think that really highlights the point that even though like your life at the beginning might be pretty rough and you have to devote most of your time, like that won't always be the case. And if you bear with it and keep it up, eventually you'll be able to get more and more of your own time and not neglect Hope at the same time.
Right, and just to continue on with just you mentioned the different seasons and recognizing that at different stages in your life there's been just different parts of the journey that have had their own uniqueness. I think that's so important to realize, especially being a sibling that has to step in at some points, and just knowing that some seasons are going to look different than others.
Yeah, totally. I definitely think that also plays into like, nothing really stays the same all the time. And if you're going through a rough time, there's always a better time around the corner. So, yeah, with that, I would also like to ask if you had any advice you would like to give to other siblings who's other people who are siblings to patients with rare disease or SGS.
I would probably say, like, just be patient with what's going on, and, like, just be okay with not being in control of the situation. Like, find the small things you can be in control of, and, um, whether that just be little simple things that you enjoy doing, but know that, like, you can't always control what's going on around you, and so just kinda for me, like, I'm a very go with the flow person, and I think that's helped me a lot because, um, when things don't go to plan, and more often than not in the medical world with a sibling who they're always having something medical go on, rarely plans go the way they're supposed to, you know? So just being patient with that, I think, and being very flexible, because you never know, like, when something's gonna happen, and so don't hold on to your plans too tightly, but then, yeah, I think also just, trying to put yourself like, I constantly will try to put myself in her shoes and see from her perspective in life, um, rather than, like, hoping that she'll someday get to, like, my perspective, 'cause, life's just different for that sibling, and they go through so much more than we ever will, but, like, at the same time, we're going through it with them, and then also, like, expressing because I think sometimes with a sibling with special needs and a lot of care, sometimes the other siblings like, my parents have always done a really good job with this, is making sure they spend time with us and, um, make sure that we're doing okay and getting our needs met as well, but I think sometimes when it's like something major going on, you can sometimes feel maybe overlooked or maybe, like your needs aren't fully getting met. And so I think just voicing when you do, like in those busy seasons, like voicing to your parents or your other siblings with caregiving, I think sometimes it can be a little hard to express when you need something. And thankfully, my parents have done a really good job about making sure um, that we all are loved and supported. So I've been very thankful for that. But I think that's not the case for everybody. So
Mhm.
Oh, thank you, Hannah. I really thought that it was the first thing you touched on was really important, where it's be okay to not be completely in control and to accept that, but also, to really cherish the things that you do have control over. So maybe it's just a very small thing, but it's still something that, you can feel control over, and that might help you get through like the other stuff that you really don't have control over.
And you mentioned a really good point just about when you're younger, being able to express the needs to your parents that they might not be able to just pick up from just things that might seem minuscule to them or might seem like they're feeling different things, feeling different needs, but there might be needs that you're seeking. So you mentioned a good point. It's just being able to voice that concern as a sibling. So, um, and that is not to say that anyone's doing their job wrong, but just being able to understand what your own needs are and then being able to voice them is so important.
Yeah, for sure. I think like you mentioned it too, but like not to be afraid to do it, because many people in this situation, you might feel guilty or like just feel bad that you're taking attention away from like the patient who really like needs a lot of care to even survive. But I think it's like what you said, it's important to not be afraid to do that and just to like speak out, because like you have needs too, right? And it's actually important that your needs are also met, because in some ways, like you're a caregiver for the patient, and if your needs are met, you can provide better care, and that actually improves their lives. Mm.
Exactly, and you know, um, things that were mentioned in the prior episode with just being parents, they do recognize that sometimes, time is taken away from the siblings. And so being able to voice your unmet needs to your parents, especially when they might not know what exactly those unmet needs are, that might help them and also help you, of course, at the same time. So thanks so much, Hannah, just for sharing, advice for not only advocates but also other siblings out there that just might need, some advice for their issues as well. So thanks again.
Yep. Well, before we end, I would just like to thank you again for joining us, Hannah. It was incredible that you shared your story and like what you felt as this whole journey happened. But we are out of time. So thank you, Hannah, and thank you, viewers or listeners for being here today. And once again, we hope that you've learned something, and we'll see you next time. Bye.